Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's bright and early, daily discipline, mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through. Got a cold morning here in Central Florida, 48 degrees. It's warming up steadily. The sun came out, but that's chilly for us. Some of you guys are laughing. We don't have thick skin down here. This is the jungle. This is tropics. It's not supposed to be cold like this. I want to just philosophize a little bit. Let's talk about the hippie movement and this notion of a bohemian utopia, because that's what the hippies were trying to create, was a utopia. And they were all very bohemian in their philosophy and lifestyle, a bunch of postmodernist bohemians. Now, who were the hippies? Because that's where we got to start with this. My parents' generation, the late 60s. You see, before that, America was rather homogenous, and we didn't have freaks. You had beatniks, but if you go look at what a beatnik looks like physically, they're not really that different than anybody else, and maybe they had strange beliefs for the time. But that tune in, turn on, drop out kind of notion, long-haired dudes, smoking weed, listening to rock and roll music, being rebellious, being counterculture, being open-minded to new ideas and ideologies, all of that spawned out of my parents' generation. You can credit or discredit them for it, depending on where you stand on these issues. But my parents were hippies. That's how I came up. I was raised that way. And it's taken me a long time to figure out what was really going on. I didn't really know. When I was a kid, I'm just a kid, just going along with what my parents are doing. But as I've gotten older, I've understood the hippie movement and what they were trying to do. And my parents were very ideological extremists. All hippies are. They're ideological extremists. They wouldn't describe themselves that way, but maybe some of them would. And sure, there was the part-time hippie, there was the ones that just wanted to go to a concert and smoke a little bit of weed, or maybe grow their hair out because it shocked their parents. But my parents were hardcore hippies. They weren't just trying to shock their parents with their lifestyle, they were trying to create a new world, to change society, and to change it from this old 1950s kind of Leave It to Beaver world. You can go watch that TV show and see that's what America was like. And they wanted to change that. They felt that that was oppressive, restrictive. So they rejected religion, embraced atheism, embraced Eastern philosophies, rejected any kind of monotheistic God or religion. They rejected masculinity. This is where the long hair, the dresses, men were wearing dresses. Go watch Woodstock. There's a big difference between the way men looked in the early 60s as opposed to the late 60s. And what happened? Well, this is what happened. A bunch of hippies changed the world. And it was partially driven, the movement was partially driven by the university system, and very famous, well-known, I should say, maybe not famous, but well-known, particularly amongst counterculture, people like Timothy Leary and a whole host of others, of elitist professors. Alan Watts was a part of that movement. There's a whole bunch of them, and not all of them were hacks. Some of them were interesting people. But the hippies, oddly enough, were not a multicultural community. They were not. You can say, well, I know a Puerto Rican or a black person. Sure, maybe you did. Jimi Hendrix was a hippie, but you can do the research. Statistically, hippies were white, suburban, majority women. You want to know what the hippie movement was? It was a lot of white, suburban, upper middle class, mostly, not all, mostly women. There were men, and there were some minorities, some, but not many. The hippie movement today, right now today, still exists, and it's demographically the exact same. It has not become more multicultural. It's very homogenous, it's very white, and it's very upper middle class suburban white. That's who tunes in, turns on, and drops out. People from the ghetto don't tune in, turn on, and drop out and go live in school buses in the woods. White upper middle class women do, and they bring their little emasculated boyfriends with them, or they find themselves some little girly man wearing a dress and latch onto him like he's a cult leader. That was the relationship between my mother and father. And when my mother became disillusioned with my father and realized that he was just some dumb idiot trying to live like a homeless person, she smartened up, luckily, but a lot of people didn't smarten up, and they tried to pursue the communal lifestyle. Look at the Rainbow Family. You can Google them, they have lots of documentaries. The Rainbow Family is a good example of this hippie group that's trying to create a bohemian utopia. They have the Rainbow Gathering, where is it, in Colorado, out in the woods somewhere in Colorado, once a year. And what they promote it as and what it actually is are two different things. That's common, of course, with a lot of stuff. But what they're trying to create, if you ask any one of them, is they're trying to create a utopia. But what is it really? It's a bunch of people camping in the woods, living in the dirt. A bunch of homeless bums. And they say that they're trying to get rid of the economy and trade and barter. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's lies. It's all a bunch of lies. The Grateful Dead scene was the same way. Some of you are too young to remember, but the Grateful Dead had their own little bohemian, postmodernist hippie following. A bunch of rich little suburbanites that would travel around in their vans and VW buses and school buses and whatever, and live on tour and camp out in parking lots all over America, starving to death and taking drugs, never bathing. And that lifestyle was looked at as utopia. I know people that did that. I was never a deadhead. We used to go to the dead shows to buy drugs. You'd get a sheet of acid for cheap and a bunch of mushrooms, buy drugs off the hippies, and then we'd leave. I've probably been to 30 Grateful Dead shows. I've never once ever seen the Grateful Dead. I would never waste a fucking dime going to watch a concert like that, ever. But I've been to many of the shows buying dope off you fucking hippies. And that's utopia. A dirty squatter's camp is utopia, according to the Bohemian. So I don't understand that, because I've been doing research on this culture for my book, and I didn't understand why someone would leave an incredibly wonderful neighborhood, Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles, and then they would go live in the dirt in Arizona. And Pacific Palisades, which one could argue might be actually utopia. Beautiful. If you want to go there, go check it out. It's beautiful. Or Bethesda, Maryland. Someone might argue Bethesda, Maryland is actually utopia. It's a little town full of millionaires. Bethesda, Maryland is a millionaire town. Beautiful, clean, spotless. You can find other examples like that. And people, white, suburban, wealthy women from these communities, these almost utopian communities where there's no dirt on the ground, there's no homeless people, everything is clean, and these beautiful little areas. The parks are amazing. People are lucky to live there. But no, Pacific Palisades isn't utopia. That's what you have to tune in and turn on and drop out from. That's what you have to get away from. I desperately need to get away from my wonderful community in Pacific Palisades or Bethesda, Maryland, and go live in the dirt, drink dirt fucking milkshakes and have dirt covered all over you and grow dreadlocks and live this hedonist fucking lifestyle, staying high all the time and avoiding work and avoiding any kind of personal growth and just being a bum. Why is that the Bohemian utopia? And I went down this rabbit hole even further to study squatters camps. There's full-time squatters camps in America, and a good example of one is a place called Slab City. It's out in the southern desert of California, a little bit above San Diego, but in that area, right next to the Salton Sea, if you're familiar with the Salton Sea. And it's been there since the late 50s, early 60s. It's a squatters camp. They call it a city, but it's not really a city. It's just a bunch of homeless bums living out in the desert. And during the season, because it gets 130 degrees out in Slab City in the summertime, during the winter season when the weather's cooler, about 4,000 people show up. That's a lot of squatters. And it turns into kind of like a rainbow gathering where it's a bunch of dirty hippies who are living in the dirt. And that is a utopia. And there's lots of documentaries about Slab City, lots of people interviewed that live there. And when one of these residents of this squatters camp are asked, what's going on here? What is this? They will tell you, this is our attempt to create a little utopia. But it's a utopia that's dangerous, that's full of health problems. You're living off the grid without electricity or running water. Every one of these utopian dreamlands that hippies create are all the same. These dirty homeless camps. Is this what utopia is? Is this the idea of liberals? Is to turn America into a dirty squatters camp, into Slab City? It feels like it. Because look at our urban centers that are all exclusively liberal. Look what they're doing to these places. They're destroying them. And then with blinders on, they say, what? It looks great. This is wonderful. Los Angeles is wonderful. San Francisco is wonderful. That's what the liberal says. Fuck utopia. Keep me as far away from utopia as possible. Fuck your fucking utopia. And fuck any one of you hippie motherfuckers, my family included, who's trying to make that shit happen. I will fight against your utopia until I have nothing left in me. Fuck utopia.